By the time I realized the grain was moving, it was already past my waist. I couldn't see it, couldn't feel it between my fingers. But it was there. Millions of invisible kernels rushing around my legs, filling the silo from the bottom up, squeezing my ribs like a fist. The concrete walls groaned. My flashlight flickered once and died, and the dark pressed in so thick it felt like a physical thing. Somewhere above me, where the hatch should have been, I heard my own voice. Not echoing, not recorded, my voice. Calm, clear, coming from the other side of the metal. "Ryan," it called down, "you shouldn't have come back." I opened my mouth to scream, and whatever was down there pushed inside. 3 weeks earlier, the worst sound in my life was my mother coughing in the next room. I'd been back in Warrens Hollow, Nebraska for exactly 9 days. After 4 years in Chicago shooting weddings, restaurant promos, and whatever else would pay the rent, the call came. Mom's lungs were shot, the farm was too much, and there was no one else. I told myself it was temporary. I'd help her through the worst of it, then figure something out. That's what you say when you don't want to admit you're moving home again at 26. I was standing in our small kitchen, pouring coffee into a chipped white mug with a faded green logo, Warrens Hollow Agricultural Collective, when my phone buzzed. Unknown number, local area code. "Yeah," I answered. "Is this Ryan Henderson?" A man's voice, 50s maybe, rough like he'd been chewing gravel his whole life. "Yeah, who's this?" "This is Mark Lewiston. I'm on the town council. I heard you're a photographer." I glanced down the hall. Mom's cough rattled behind her bedroom door. "Sometimes," I said, "depends what you need." "We're applying for a historical preservation grant," he said. "Have to document some of the older farm structures before we tear them down or modernize." He cleared his throat. "Could use some decent photos of the old elevators, barns, a couple of silos. You get me 20, 30 good shots, town cuts you a check. No fuss." I needed that money badly. "What kind of timeline?" I asked. "Soon," he said. "Before the first real snow, preferably. I'll email you a list of the places. One thing," he paused like he needed to shift gears. "There's an address on there, North Road, dead end. Old co-op silo. Says Warrens Hollow Agricultural Collective on the form. You can skip that one." "Skip it? Why?" "It's not structurally sound," he said. "It's just on the paperwork still. No need for you to go out there." I stared at the mug in my hand, the same logo, the same tower I saw in my earliest, foggiest memories. "Then why include it?" I asked. Silence hummed between us for a second. "Habit, I guess," he said. "Just leave it alone. Not worth the risk." He hung up not long after. An hour later, I sat at the kitchen table, laptop open and his email pulled up. Mom shuffled in slowly, wrapped in a faded flannel robe, oxygen cannula hooked around her ears. Every breath sounded like it cost her something. "You're up early," she rasped. "Got a job," I said. "For the town. I'm shooting old buildings." She smiled faintly. "They finally pretending they care about history." I scrolled through the attachment. A neat little list of addresses, some I recognized, some I didn't. Merrill Barn, Gaines Feed Shed, Pierce Farm Silo, and Warrens Hollow Agricultural Collective, North Co-op Silo. Beside it, in parentheses, no access needed. Mom's eyes caught on that line. Her shoulders went tight. "You're not going out there," she said. "I wasn't planning on it." I looked up at Miriam. "What's the big deal? Place full of raccoons or meth heads or something?" Her gaze stayed on the screen, like she could make the words disappear by staring hard enough. "There was an accident when you were little," she said finally. "You don't remember." "Accident?" She turned away, busying herself with the coffee pot that was already empty. "Mom," she shook her head. "Take the other premise. Stay away from that silo. It should have been knocked down a long time ago." There was a tremor in her voice that had nothing to do with her lungs. "I'm not a kid," I said too softly to sound convincing. "I'll be careful." "Just promise me," she said. "You won't go inside." I didn't promise. The first couple of days on the job were exactly the kind of boring I'd been hoping for. Long gravel roads, leaning barns, empty fields. The sky was that dull, Midwestern gray that makes it feel like the world is holding its breath. I shot everything in RAW, sun-bleached boards, rusted augers, broken windshields, whatever might make an old farmer's heart ache. On the third day, I took the North Road. Dust plumed in the rearview mirror. The radio lost the last station and slid into static. No farmhouses out here, no mailboxes, just dead corn stalks and the low hum of power lines. Then the road dead-ended, and I saw it. The old co-op silo stood alone at the edge of the fields. It wasn't just tall, it was wrong tall. Too narrow, too smooth. A gray-white cylinder with a rusted metal cap. A squat cinder block office clung to one side, its door hanging crooked, windows spider-webbed with cracks. I parked a good 100 feet away. Some places feel abandoned. This one felt paused, like the whole scene was waiting for someone to hit resume. The hairs on my arms stood up, but I blamed the November wind. Just a couple of shots from here, I muttered. I'm not going in. Happy now, Mom. I lifted my camera. The first shot framed the silo with that endless, empty sky behind it. I zoomed in on the ladder bolted to the side, rust streaks fanning down. The faint outline of the co-op logo was still visible through the grime. Click, click. Without really deciding to, I walked closer. Gravel crunched under my boots. The air smelled faintly of dust and something sweet, like old grain or forgotten feed. But it was cold. Too cold for that smell. I was nearly at the base when I heard it. A soft sliding sound. Like someone pouring sand through a narrow funnel. I froze. It came again, from inside the silo. A distant, heavy shushing, like tons of something settling. That didn't make any sense. The place was supposed to be empty. Every old-timer in town said the co-op had closed before I could walk. I put my hand on the curved concrete wall. Cold. Solid. The sliding stopped. For a heartbeat, it felt like whatever was inside was listening back. I pulled my hand away and tried to laugh it off. Old crap shifting around, I saw it out loud. Rats nesting or something. Relax. Even as I said it, I didn't believe myself. Footsteps crunched behind me. I turned, heart in my throat, finger tightening on the shutter. An old man stood by my car, one hand halfway raised as if he'd been about to knock on my window and then realized I wasn't there. Faded denim jacket, trucker cap, boots caked with dust. His shoulders were hunched, but his eyes were sharp. "You don't want to be fooling around out here, boy," he called. I lowered the camera. "I'm just taking pictures. Town council job." "That right?" He squinted. "Lewiston send you?" "Yeah, I'm Ryan." He studied my face, something like recognition working its way through the creases. "Henderson?" The name hung between us. "Yeah," I said slowly. "You know my mom, Abby." His jaw tightened. His eyes flicked up to the silo, then back. "Well, hell," he muttered. "Should have guessed. You've got your daddy's eyes." I felt like the air left the world. "You knew my dad?" I asked. He didn't answer that outright, just said, "Name's Marty. Used to work out here back when this place was alive. Before..." His gaze slid to the tower again. "Before the incident." "What incident?" He walked toward me, boots grinding on gravel. "I ran the dryers," he said. "Your dad was night shift. Kept things moving once the rest of us went home." "My dad died in a car accident," I said automatically. That's what Mom had always told me. Rain, bad visibility, a ditch. Marty's mouth tugged down. "That what she said?" His voice wasn't mocking, just tired. I took a step toward him. "Look, I don't know what you're trying to... You shouldn't be here." He cut me off, eyes hard now. "This place don't let go easy. Not of grain, not of people." Behind me, inside the silo, something thudded against metal. A low, heavy knock that vibrated in my teeth. We both went still. Marty stepped back from the tower like it had reached for him. "I'm serious, Ryan. Take your shots from the road if you gotta. Then you leave. Don't go in that office. Don't mess with the hatch. Don't stand under the chute. And for God's sake, don't climb that ladder." "What's inside?" I asked. He met my eyes, and for a second, I saw pure fear. "What the town doesn't want to remember," he said. Then he turned away, shoulders hunched, and walked toward a beat-up pickup that had been half hidden behind a patch of dead grass. Every step looked like it hurt. He drove off without looking back. I stood there alone, breathing steam into the cold air, and turned back to the silo. At ground level, a rectangular hatch was set into the wall. A heavy metal bar and rusted padlock held it shut. Around the edges, I could see a faint, dark streak, like something had seeped out and dried not that long ago. I zoomed in and snapped a picture. For a split second in the preview on my screen, I thought I saw an eye looking back from the sliver of darkness around the hatch. When I checked again, it was just shadow. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about what Marty had said. Car accident. That was the story I'd grown up with. Flooded road, bad visibility, truck into a ditch. No body, washed downstream, they'd said. A tragedy. No one mentioned a grain silo. When Mom went to bed, I opened my laptop and started digging. Warren's Hollow Silo accident, pulled up a bunch of boring government PDFs and a half-broken local history blog. I was about to give up when I spotted a scanned newspaper clipping from 1999. Local man presumed dead in co-op mishap, body not recovered. Safety violations alleged. My heart started pounding. I clicked it. The scan was rough, but I could read enough. On Tuesday evening, Warren's Hollow resident Daniel Henderson, 32, was reported missing following a suspected accident at the Warren's Hollow Agricultural Collective's North Silo. My dad, according to the article, he'd been working alone on night shift. The grain elevator had been running past normal hours. By the time someone checked, the equipment was off, the silo sealed, and his truck was still in the lot. Investigators believe Mr. Henderson may have fallen into the stored dry corn while attempting to clear a jam, it read. Despite efforts to recover his body, shifting material and structural concerns ultimately made continued rescue operations unsafe. He is presumed dead. There was a quote from some inspector about engulfment hazards and grain behaving like a liquid. Then, in light of this tragic event, the Warren's Hollow Agricultural Collective has announced the permanent closure of the North Silo facility. The rest of the scan blurred out. I sat there staring at the screen, feeling hollow. He hadn't died in a car accident. He disappeared into that tower. Anger came first, at Mom, at the town, at whoever had decided the lie was better than the truth. Then another feeling, quieter but deeper. The sense that something in me I didn't know was missing had just snapped into place. A half memory surfaced. Me in the backseat of our old truck, chin barely above the window, watching a tall, white silo slide past. Mom's hands choking the steering wheel. A man on the radio talking about recovery efforts. My own voice crying. Hers too. The next day, I told myself I was done with the co-op. I had plenty of other photos for the council. The check would come. I'd pay off another chunk of Mom's medical debt, and that tower could sit there and rot. By late afternoon, I was back on the North Road. Just one more wide shot, I told myself. Better light, that's all. Snow clouds muscle-edged the horizon, but the sky over the fields was pink and clear. The silo looked even taller somehow, the light flattening its surface. The office door swung in the wind with a lazy bang. The smaller sheds and intake points were just shadows. I snapped a couple of frames from the car, then froze. For a second, I thought I saw someone move in one of the office windows. Just a flicker of pale. I zoomed in, breath held. The cracked glass reflected only my car and the road. Something tapped the passenger window. I jerked around. No one there. The tap came again, exactly the same. Not on the glass, on the camera. I looked down. A single perfect kernel of dried corn sat on top of the LCD screen. I hadn't opened my door. There was no grain in the car. The kernel trembled, rolled slowly off the camera into my lap. My scalp crawled. I tossed the camera onto the passenger seat, started the engine, and backed out so fast I kicked up a cloud of dust behind me. I didn't stop until the silo was out of sight. I also didn't notice the second kernel that had dropped into the cuff of my jacket. Weird stuff started small and got worse. At first it was just offness whenever I looked at the co-op shots on my laptop. Angles a little different than I remembered. A door slightly more open. A shadow in the corner of a window that hadn't been there when I took the shot. I told myself I was tired. That memory edits itself, that I was going stir-crazy out on the farm. Then one night I zoomed in on a shot of the silo base from my first visit and froze. There was a figure in the photo, not facing the camera, just a pale outline of a person standing with their back to me, head tilted up toward the top of the tower. Clothes too indistinct to make out, but the posture was familiar. The metadata said the file hadn't been touched. No double exposures, no overlays. I blinked. When my eyes refocused, the figure was gone. Just concrete and rust. Mom's coughing fit broke out down the hall. I slammed the laptop shut. That night I dreamed about grain. It poured through the house, slow and relentless, sliding under doors and through vents, piling up in the hallway, swallowing furniture. Mom lay in her bed, coughing soundlessly as it rose around her. I tried to wade to her, but every step dragged me knee-deep, waist-deep, chest-deep. The more I fought, the faster it climbed. Outside the window, above the golden swell, the silhouette of the silo rose like a lighthouse. There was a man standing at its base, back to me, head tipped up at the skirl. "Dad!" I yelled. He turned, but instead of a face, there was a spinning metal auger, chewing up the air, spitting husks. I woke up with my mouth full of the taste of dust. I ran into Marty 2 days later at the gas station, standing in front of the coffee machines like I'd forgotten what coffee was. "You went back," he said. I didn't even pretend not to know what he meant. "I had to," I said. "You knew my dad. Everybody else fed me some bullshit about a car crash." He sighed through his nose. "Your mom told you he died. That should have been enough." "It isn't," I said. The cup in my hand rattled against the counter. "You're the first person who's mentioned that place and him in the same sentence. Now you either tell me the truth or I walk in there with a flashlight and find it myself." He stared at me for a long moment. I braced for him to chew me out. Instead, he just looked older. "You sound just like Danny," he muttered, stubborn in all the wrong ways. We ended up at a plastic table in the corner of the gas station's sad little seating area, between a rack of jerky and a display of wiper fluid. Outside, the sky had that heavy look that means snow is coming, whether you want it or not. Marty wrapped his scarred hands around his styrofoam cup. "Your dad took night shift for the extra pay," he said. "New baby, broke house. I told him it wasn't worth it. Those silos weren't built for safety. Floor rattled when the fans kicked on. Guards missing on augers. Ladder cages rusted through. We knew it was bad, but the co-op had been run that way since before we were born." He stared off over my shoulder, seeing a different room. A couple weeks before it happened, guys started saying they heard things in there, not just fans and grain. Voices, like someone talking under the surface. Sometimes calling names. We all laughed it off. Corn ghosts, farm jokes. He swallowed. Then stuff started going missing. Tools, gloves, a whole pallet of seed one time, like it sank right into the floor. Nobody wanted to say it out loud, but that silo felt wrong. The others were just big concrete stomachs. That one, it felt like it was thinking. My skin prickled. "Your dad didn't scare easy," he went on. "Said we were letting our imaginations turn a tube of grain into a haunted mansion. Went in alone at night to clear clogs, kicked at a stuck slide gate. He'd come out off, like he'd heard something he didn't want to talk about." He took a breath that sounded like it hurt. "I was supposed to be there that night. My wife went into early labor. Called Danny, said, 'I can't come in.' He said, 'Don't worry, I got it. Just a couple of loads left.'" Marty's voice went thin. "I came back 3 days later. The place was taped off. Inspectors, sheriff, councilmen all standing around looking mad at each other. They said your dad must have gone up top, popped a hatch, fallen straight into the corn. Silo was almost full. By the time anybody checked, it was already too late. Grain swallows you like quicksand. They tell you that in the training videos, but nobody thinks it'll be them." He stared into his coffee. "They tried pulling it out. Vac systems, probes. Grain kept shifting. Every time they got close, something slipped. One inspector almost went in too. They shut it down, said it wasn't safe to keep looking. Called it a recovery instead of a rescue on day 2. Your dad went from trapped to presumed dead in a line of bureaucratic print. We held a memorial with no coffin. After that, the co-op closed this place down, chained it, and everybody agreed we wouldn't call it what it was. We just called it the accident. He rubbed at his eyes, but the noise didn't stop. Silo was supposed to be full of still grain, but at night it rustled, whispered, like someone was walking around under P30. A couple guys swore they heard Danny yelling for help. One said he heard his own voice coming out of the hatch. Place got a reputation fast. Town council didn't want to hear it. They fenced the road, then let the fence fall down. Easiest way to forget is to not look at something until it belongs to ghosts. What is it? I asked. A ghost? A curse? What? He shook his head slowly. I don't know what's living in there, he said. I know it keeps what you feed it. Grain, tools, men, maybe pieces of the people who feel guilty about letting it happen. I know it hasn't been truly empty since your father disappeared. And I know, he met my eyes, I know it doesn't like to be forgotten. The smart move would have been to stop, accept the ugly truth, let the dead stay dead, walk away. But the more I thought about it, the worse it got. It wasn't just that he died there, it was that the town had quietly edited him out. No plaque, no marker at the co-op, no in memory of at the cafe. A man swallowed by a structure they decided not to tear down because it would mean admitting what they'd done or not done. I started noticing it everywhere. Yearbooks that skipped his name after that year. A volunteer fire department photo with a guy airbrushed out so clumsily it hurt to look at. His face pulled off the wall in our house like it was toxic. The night I went back, real snow had finally started to fall. Big, wet flakes drifted down, melting on the windshield. The fields were frosted white, corn stubble like rows of black teeth. The radio had given up on reception miles ago. Bolt cutters on the passenger seat, heavy flashlight on the floor, camera around my neck. Mom had gone to bed early, sedated and exhausted. I left a note on the table. Out shooting the old Miller barn. Back later. Love you. I told myself I was going to take a look, get some closure, maybe prove there was nothing there but bad architecture and worse memories. The dead-end gravel road felt even narrower in the dark. When my headlights hit the tower, it didn't look like part of the same world as my car. The snowflakes disappeared a few feet above its top, like they hit something invisible and stopped existing. I parked closer this time. The cold hit as soon as I stepped out. My breath billowed in front of me. The office door creaked when I pushed it fully open. The little cinder block room smelled like soaked cardboard and mouse piss. My flashlight beam carved out desks coated in dust, chairs on their sides. A calendar on the wall frozen on October 1999. On a whiteboard near the door, someone had scribbled names and numbers. Pierce, 18 loads. Gaines, 22. Merrill, 15. Henderson, 7. My throat tightened. A corkboard hung crooked, held on by rusted pushpins. Safety notices. A torn flyer for a church supper. One sheet of paper was stuck at an angle. I straightened it. Grain engulfment safety. A cartoon figure sinking into a dune of dots, arms waving. Below, in a different pen, someone had written in all caps, "It's hungry." My camera beeped softly in my hand. I looked down. The LCD screen had turned on by itself. The camera had taken a photo without me pressing the shutter. The shot was of the office doorway from where I stood. In the photo, the door was closed. A dark liquid pooled outward from the gap along the floor. I glanced up. The door hung half open, exactly as I'd left it. The floor was dry. Whispers slid along the cinder block walls, too soft to understand but textured, like hands rubbing together in another room. I swung my flashlight wildly. Empty desks, stacks of old forms, a rotted swivel chair. The whispering grew louder. 1,000 tiny voices was saying the same thing with their tongues cut out. I backed out of the office. The air outside hit me like a wall. Still, no wind, no traffic, no sound beyond my own breathing and the soft hiss of falling snow. The silo loomed to my right, closer than it had any right to feel. The concrete shone with a damp sheen that hadn't been there earlier. My flashlight beam climbed its curve, catching the ladder, the hatch, the ring of darker discoloration partway up, like a high water mark. The sliding sound came again. Not distant this time. Right on the other side of the wall. I walked toward the base, my heartbeat rabbiting in my throat. The hatch was held shut by the same metal bar, the same rusted padlock. I didn't hesitate. The bolt cutters bit through the hasp with a crunch. The lock dropped, thudding against the concrete, the sound weirdly loud. Everything went quiet. No whispers, no sliding. I put one hand on the curved steel handle and paused. This was the line. Once I crossed it, there was no pretending this was just photography and curiosity. I pulled. The hatch groaned open, scraping rust on rust. Cold air flowed out, colder than the night around me. It smelled like old grain and something else, drier than dust, older than in the co-op. My flashlight beam crawled into a short concrete tunnel, maybe 4 feet deep, leading into blackness. This was where grain would have rushed out into truck beds. Now the floor was covered in a powdery pale layer. Not quite corn dust, too fine. I crouched and shined the light along the floor. Footprints, bare human footprints, clear in the dust. They led away from me, deeper into the dark. They stopped a few feet in. The dust at the end of the trail was spiraled, like something had twisted the air into a tiny tornado. "Ryan?" The voice came from above, faint and hollow, like someone calling down a well. I smacked the top of my head on the concrete roof of the tunnel, pain flashing white. "Who's there?" I called, hating the shake in my voice. Silence. Then layered underneath the echo, another voice. Rough, male, ingrained in me. "Buddy?" Only one man had ever called me that, with that exact mix of warmth and apology. "Dad?" I whispered. My own voice bounced back at me, weirdly bent, sounding more like trap than Dad. I crawled into the tunnel. The cold got sharper, slicing through my jacket. The smell of grain intensified, turning almost sweet. Halfway in, the whispers started again. Pressed right up against my ears now, a rushing susurrus like a mountain of kernels pouring past. My flashlight is shook in my hand. At the end of the tunnel, the floor dropped away. I shone the beam down. The main chamber of the silo yawned beneath me, a perfect cylinder that the light only barely reached across. The walls curved around, stained in wide streaks. The ladder bolted up one side to a round outline of the hatch far overhead. It should have been full, right up to my chest with old rotten corn. It was empty, except it didn't feel empty. The space below my boots felt occupied. A void so complete it might as well have been a solid thing. My light hit the ledge where the ladder met the wall. Bare footprints ran along it, toe marks in grime, circling once around the interior, then stopping halfway. "There you are," the man's voice said again, closer now. "Took you long enough," I swallowed. "Where are you?" I asked. "Where are you?" There came my own voice from somewhere high above. Calm, familiar. "You know where." Something moved on the ledge opposite me, a pale hand withdrawing from the light, a shoulder vanishing around the curve. I lifted my camera and fired the shutter instinctively. The flash detonated in the hollow space, burning everything white for a second. When my vision cleared, the ledge was empty. I checked the display. The interior of the silo was there in obscene clarity. Walls slick, damp. The ledge. The ladder rising out of frame. A man stood on the far side, one hand on a rung, his back to me, head tipped up toward the roof hatch. Dark hair just starting to curl at his neck. Blue work shirt, jeans. I couldn't see his face, but I didn't have to. At his feet, the floor of the silo wasn't bare concrete. It was faces. Thousands of them pressed together into a seamless mass, mouths open in frozen screams, eyes packed with golden kernels of corn. The preview blinked off. My flashlight died. The darkness that rushed in wasn't normal night. It was thick, heavy, full of motion. The whispering became a roar, dozens of voices and none, my name over and over, stretched into something unrecognizable. The surface under my knees shifted. I realized too late that I wasn't kneeling on solid concrete. It rose around me, cold and drawing wrong. I couldn't see it, couldn't grab a handful, but I could feel the pressure. It climbed past my shins, my thighs. Every movement dragged me down deeper. I thrashed. That made it worse. Whatever filled the chamber grabbed my legs, my hips, my waist, sucking me down. It worked into my boots, into my pockets, up under my jacket. My scream came out as a cough. Something poured into my mouth. No taste, no texture. Just choking absence. High above, a round cutout of lighter dark. The roof hatch. A shape blocked it. A silhouette. Human. Looking down at me. "Trade," my own voice said from up there. That's how it works. The invisible grain surged up my chest, pinning my arms. Ribs creaked. Spots burst across my vision. Breathing became a suggestion. In that instant, cold and painfully clear, I understood. The town knew, Lewiston and the council. The co-op suits before them. Every farmer who got quiet when the North Silo came up, they decided to leave it standing. Not because it was expensive to tear down, because tearing it down meant acknowledging the thing they'd let form there. So they fed it something else instead. Denial, guilt, silence, all the little lies you tell yourself so you can sleep at night. Over the years, it had learned. Grain takes the shape of whatever holds it. Maybe the thing inside had taken the shape of what the town poured into it. It had taken my father first. And now, like a story that wanted neat symmetry, it wanted me. I tried to say no, tried to spit it out, got nothing but more of that crushing, impossible nothing in my throat. Hands touched me in the dark. One on my face, rough and calloused. Another on my arm. Another on my back, shoving. Hands everywhere, pulling and pushing all at once. Voices screamed around me, inside me. In the middle of the chaos, I heard one clearly. "I'm sorry." My father's face flashed inches from mine, dusted in fine yellow powder, eyes red and raw and too aware. His mouth moved. "I'm sorry," he said again. Then he shoved me up. The mass convulsed. For one impossible second, I felt weightless, like I'd been fired out of a cannon. The tunnel walls rushed past. My shoulders slammed into concrete. The cold outside air slapped my face. I burst out of the hatch opening in a shower of frost, tumbling onto the gravel. Behind me, the silo roared. The sound was like an elevator full of rocks ripping itself apart. The hatch door slammed shut on its own, metal shrieking. Cracks spidered out in the frost on the concrete. My camera clattered to the ground beside me. I lay there on my back, gasping, my lungs burning, watching steam pour from my mouth and nose in great, ragged clouds. Inside the wall behind me, the whispers dwindled, faded, stopped. Snow fell again. This time it didn't skip the space above the tower. It drifted down, dusting its cap, clinging to its anitis. I crawled to my feet, every joint screaming, and staggered to the car. The whole time I expected a hand to shoot out from under the hatch and drag me back. Nothing did. At the end of the road, I looked in the rearview mirror. Far down the dead straight track, the silo was just a pale shape against the dark. For a moment, I saw a figure standing at the rim of the roof hatch. He raised his hand. I lifted mine, fingers trembling. The hatch lid swung shut. The figure vanished. I told Mom everything. I don't know what I expected. Laughter, anger, a call to the nearest psych ward. She just cried. "I'm sorry," she kept saying, her fingers cold and bird-like wrapped around mine. "I wanted to tell you. I wanted to so many times." "Why didn't you?" My voice came out rough. She stared at the ceiling. "They sat me down in a room with coffee in styrofoam cups and papers on the table," she said. "Told me they couldn't get him out, that the structure wasn't safe, that if I signed, I'd get the insurance, enough to keep the farm, enough to feed you. If I didn't, we'd lose everything. I had a baby, Ryan. No savings, no family left who'd take us in." She swallowed hard. "So I signed. I told you he died on the road where you couldn't see him die. I thought if we left town someday, we'd leave that place behind too." Her eyes met mine. "You saw him?" she whispered. "Yeah," I said. "He pulled me out." She let out a sound somewhere between a laugh and a sob. We didn't talk much after that. What else was there to say? That I'd nearly replaced him? That something in that silo now knew my name the way it knew his? A week later, I finally forced myself to go through the photos. Every image of the co-op was ruined. Not with glitches, not exactly. In each photo where the tower should have been, there was a column of crawling static, a storm of gray and white pixels churning like digital grain. The rest of the frame, trees, ski-free road, was sharp. In one, a shot from the road, the side mirror reflected my car. My seat was empty. In another, zoomed way in on the hatch. A person stood under it, head tilted up, camera at their chest. Same jacket as me, same posture. When I zoomed further, the face was smooth, featureless, like someone had taken an eraser to it. I deleted all of them, emptied the trash, pulled the SD card, smashed it with a hammer out by the barn, burned the pieces in an old coffee can. The smoke smelled faintly sweet. The next morning, my phone wallpaper had changed. I hadn't touched it. I knew what it was supposed to be, a shot of the Chicago skyline over the lake. Now it was a close-up of a rough, uneven surface. Gray-white, textured. It took me a moment to realize what I was looking at. A wall of corn. A cross-section of a million tiny shapes packed so tight there was no space between them. At the very bottom of the screen, barely visible under the app icons, there was a pixelated silhouette of a tower. I changed the wallpaper. It stayed fixed for a day, then quietly shifted back in the middle of the night. Mom died in late January. We buried her on a hill in the town cemetery, under a sky that looked like packed snow. You couldn't see the co-op from there, but I could feel where it was, off beyond the bare tree line. Lewiston showed up at the wake with a practiced, sad face and a casserole someone's wife had probably made. "If you're thinking of moving on," he said, "I can help you sell the farm. Market's not great, but I can get you a decent offer. Fresh start somewhere else." "Somewhere without ghosts, silos?" I asked. He went rigid, eyes scanning my face like he was checking how much I knew. "I don't know what you mean," he said. "Sure you don't." I took a sip of flat soda. "You lied to my mom about what happened to my dad. You lied to the whole damn town." He swallowed, the muscles in his neck working. "We did what we had to do," he said quietly, "for everyone." No apology, just that. He drifted away into a cluster of neighbors offering me condolences and recipes I'd never make. I put the farm on the market less than a month later. It sold faster than it should have. I guess even cursed land looks like a bargain if the soil's decent. I moved 3 states away, still Midwest, but just far enough that the local legends are different. Bridges instead of silos, rivers instead of cornfields. Most days my reflection in the bathroom mirror looks normal. Cameras are a different story. Sometimes my face comes out clear. Sometimes my features smear just slightly, like the lens can't decide where to focus. Sometimes in the background, there's an extra vertical shape the same color as the sky, thinner than a real building would be. I still dream about grain. Sometimes I'm drowning in it, feeling it push into my nose and mouth, hearing voices in the rush. Sometimes I'm watching myself from far above, from the rim of a round hatch, as a younger version of me steps out of an old sedan and lifts a camera at a lonely white tower. "Trade," I hear my own voice say in those dreams. Calm, patient. That's how it works. I don't know what the silo actually took from me that night. Time to time, sanity, some piece of myself that shows up in photographs. But I know this, that thing out there is still standing. It got a taste of me and let me go, which means it's still hungry. So if you ever find yourself cutting through some nothing town in the American Midwest, and at the end of some gravel road, you see a tall, gray silo standing all by itself where no other buildings are, don't stop. Don't get out for a cool shot. And whatever you do, don't stare up at it too long. Because if it decides it recognizes you, it won't matter where you came from or how far you think you are from home. It'll be waiting,